Hi there, welcome to the latest episode of my 10-minute moan. And the topic of this 10-minute moan is two things that came to light from Kate Forbes' recent visit to Glasgow, where she was down opening up an envelope, I think, due to the polls suggesting that the SNP could lose every seat in Glasgow at the upcoming election, which would be rather nice. And she came out with two absolute bloopers. One about just the nonsense and lack of using common sense and logic when you're trying to argue a reason for people to vote SNP. And the other one, which is even more dangerous, is she's now again told a complete lie about child poverty figures. And this is a subject that the SNP keep flip-flopping on. And every time they do it and I see it, I'll call it out. So the Daily Record caught up with her, and their headline is Kate Forbes claims SNP MPs will ensure Labour government won't forget about Scotland, which I think is bizarre. Because if you vote and it's a Labour candidate goes down instead of an SNP in certain constituencies, he could actually be part of the government. But you need to vote for an SNP one or they'll forget all about Scotland. What you actually mean, Kate, is they'll forget about the push you're trying to push for Scotland, you and your party, right? And they won't forget about Scotland, they'll just have a different opinion on what we should do about Scotland in Westminster. So stop talking shite, because you went from someone who I held in high regard to slip sliding down that slide that will take you into a big pool of people, but Humza Yousaf, John Swinney and Nicola Sturgeon, that I have no time for. Please don't do it. So where are we? The Deputy First Minister insists the SNP's campaign message was resonating with voters while on a visit to Lint House, that's in Glasgow. Kate Forbes has claimed SNP MPs will ensure a future Labour government does not forget about Scotland. The Deputy First Minister used a campaign stop in Glasgow to insist her party was the only one fronting up to issues that Scots cared most about. Speaking to the Record after formally opening a community shop in Lint House, she said voters were pleading for a party that recognises the pressures they are under and will do something about it. The SNP is trailing Labour in the polls, with some surveys predicting it could lose all of its MPs in Glasgow. Wouldn't that be fantastic? Hence the reason the deputy leader is in Glasgow. Okay? Forbes said nationalists were defending a record of calling for a fairer deal for the poorest in society. Keir Starmer is highly likely to be the next Prime Minister, as we all vote en masse to get rid of this awful Tory government, she said. The questions for Scotland is who will put Scotland's interests first, and that is SNP MPs. No, that's not. The question is who will put Scotland's interests first is anybody that goes down to Westminster who is actually Scottish. The translation to your words is we need to send SNP ones down so they look after your interests. No mine, no the majority of Scots who do not vote SNP. You look at what Keir Starmer is proposing compared to what Scots are crying out for. We want to see properly funded public services, and if all roads lead back to Westminster, as West Streeting would say, that means sorting out the funding at source. Alright, let's consider that logically. Where are you best to influence what goes on in a government? By A, being in the party that is in government, or B, being in the sidelines shouting in. And the other thing you need to consider when you come away with that nonsense is, if you are in the party who are governing the country, i.e. Westminster, and that will be Labour, if you're in the party and you vote for someone in the party who's going to run the government, they could end up in ministerial roles, and therefore have a far bigger role and outcome for what goes on in Scotland. If you are in opposition, that notion is never going to happen, because you can't be on the cabinet. But if you represent the parties in government, then you could. All right? So stop talking pish, please, Miss Forbes. Where do we get to? If Labour are to win, well, they will, who do you want to put your interests first in Westminster, hold them to account, and ensure they don't forget about Scotland? I've actually just repeated myself. That's how crazy these people are making me. Forbes also insisted the SNP's message was resonating with voters in places like Linthouse, which lies in this Glasgow's southwest constituency. That's because when you go to these wee jollies, they're all pre-planned and there won't be SNP supporters in and round about you. Where did we get to? They are talking about food poverty and cost of living crisis. Well, that'll end. That'll end right after the election, because you've been telling us for years that that's just the Tories' fault. All these things are the Tories' fault. You've also been telling us that it's Brexit's fault, so it doesn't matter if you even use with the government in Westminster, you couldn't rectify it. So she's going to just stop talking shite, right? She said, and it's SNP MPs like Chris Stevens who have called for a fairer deal for the poorest in society. You happen to be in Chris Stevens' constituency standing in, aren't you? Go on, fess up. You look at our record. We have made difficult choices. Now pay attention to this. This is where the lies come in. We have made difficult choices to invest in the Scottish Child Payment, which has lifted almost 100,000 children out of poverty. Right. This shite gets bandaged all the time, almost weekly, sometimes daily, right? There's 100,000 kids in poverty, and you keep changing what you say on it. Because what Humza said was, we have taken 100,000 kids out of poverty. John Swinney sometimes says we prevented 100,000 kids getting into poverty, which might be true, I don't know. Because the actual ScotGov figures show that the last recorded year, poverty has risen. It's went up the way, child poverty. But your exact words, and yours are slightly different because you're now saying almost 100,000. So is it 100,000 or is it almost 100,000? Have you lifted them out of poverty or have you stopped them getting into poverty? The figures would suggest you have lifted hee-haw out of poverty, because the figures for child poverty, which I've done a full video on previously, I'll put it in the link, have actually risen in the last year. So, the only person that could possibly be telling the truth was John Swinney's sort of version of it, which is we've prevented 100,000 kids going into poverty. Because if you'd lifted 100,000 or nearly, almost as the word you use, 100,000 out of poverty, the poverty figures would go down. They've went up. So please, please, please stop talking shite. Because I ain't falling for it. And every time you talk shite, I'm going to pull you up. All right? Where did we get to? And when Labour had the chance to do it, they doubled down on the Tory welfare policies because they didn't do it. I think voters really are pleading for a party that recognises the pressures they are under and will do something about it. Well, I am. And you're not that. Because you put taxes up. Just to put folk like me under more pressure. The only people that use help are people who do not work. And I put them into two categories. They are those who would love to work but can't, and those who don't want to work. Full stop. Now see the first wee group. They deserve to be looked after by society. I know people in these groups. People that have maybe like lost legs due to vaccines, right? They people would love to work. Hard-working people that had life-altering things happen to them. They would love to work. They can't. They need looked after. But see the people who can work because they're fit enough, but just decide they don't want to because you just keep giving them free shite. See them. They need to start working. And they need to start working to help drive the economy. That would also stop us having to bring as many immigrants in, because you say we've got a skill gap or, whatever. And a lot of these skill gaps are in sort of basic level jobs. So what you need to do, this is a clever bit, and I promise you, it can't be that difficult, is we put something in place. We probably maybe start at the schools, because our education's shite as well, right? Start at the schools and encourage people to have a wee bit of standards where they think, I'm going to get out of my bed in the morning and I'm going to go and do some graft, whatever that may be, right? Not encourage them to have free buses, free prescriptions, and have free, I don't know, we're going to have free holidays to Ballymena soon, right? Because then you go, well, I really don't need to work. Because I've no pride in myself and you just keep giving me free shit, right? Encourage people, teach people, and get people out there wanting to work. The economy will look after itself. believe me, it can't fail. So, you are saying voters are pleading for a party that recognises the pressures they are under. You are correct. But yet again, your party will take that line from the people who could be and should be helping our economy. Not those who are out there grafting and getting taxed more than if they did it 300 miles south. And then you go, but you get free prescriptions. I'd rather you took them off me. Trust me. I would rather you put the free prescription thing in a bin and we went back to the old ways. We always had free prescriptions where those who could afford for them paid for them and those who couldn't got them free. Because then if you'd done that, our health service would be damn sight better than it is just now. Because you get a hell of a lot more money back into the health service and they could go and help our waiting lists, etc., etc., etc. I digress. I think that's the story finished. Well, it is. And my wee video's overran again, because I'm not very good at timing these to 10 minutes. But I do apologise. So if you're like me, and these people just frustrate the living hell out of you, do me a big favour. Please consider tactically voting. Get rid of these shites. Send hardly any of them to Westminster and bankrupt the SNP, because they'll not get their short money off Westminster if they've less MPs, and they'll not get their ministerial levy that they charge them out their wages, right? So we bankrupt them, part them out the door, and the big boys pull the big boy pants on, and we get on, and we can make Scotland better. That's all I hope for. If you enjoyed the video, thumbs up please. If you've not already done so, please consider subscribing and hitting the notification button. But most important of all, unless you're SNP, wee Kate Forbes, it's starting to be a wee fibber, right? We don't like that. And anybody that's still in their cult. See everybody else. Have a great day. Cheery bye now.